All right. In this portion of the video, I'm going to cover Amazon S3 as a CDN storage option. By default, s2Member is going to look for all of your protected files inside the security-enabled directory that's local to your installation of WordPress. WP content, plugins, s2Member files is normally where all protected files would go. And so when you generate links with s2Member to a protected file, that's where s2Member is going to look for that file is in this directory. But you can change that. If you'd like to instead use an Amazon S3 bucket, you can certainly do that. And s2Member is pre-integrated with Amazon Web Services. I'll assume in this video that you've already become familiar with Amazon Web Services and that you already have an Amazon S3 account. So I'm going to skip over all of these details here. I'm going to go right down into creating my bucket, and I'm going to show you how to configure this. Okay, the first thing we need to do is establish a name for our bucket. And we actually do that at Amazon.com. I'm going to flip tabs here over to my S3 Management Console at Amazon. I'm at the S3 tab. And we just need to create a bucket. Now, it's a good idea to make sure that your bucket is unique to your installation. So please do create a new bucket specifically for s2Member to use. It's a replacement for the normal s2Member files directory that normally would be local to your WordPress installation. Now we're going to change that, and s2Member is instead going to look for protected files inside whatever bucket name you choose here. It's important to be careful about how you name your bucket. Amazon has some strict policies in regards to how or what characters can appear in the name of a bucket, and a good practice to get into is just to stick to all alphanumerics and dashes. You want this to be compatible with a host name, because ultimately you might decide to use this as part of a host name. So we want to make sure it remains lowercase, all alphanumerics. And the region you can just leave as US standard, or if you like a different one, you can choose that here. And we create the bucket. So that's it. The bucket now exists. It doesn't have anything in it yet, but that's okay. I'm going to flip tabs again now and go back to my dashboard and give s2Member the name of the bucket that I created. Okay. Now I need to acquire my Amazon access key, my access key ID. There's instructions here on where to find that. I'm going to go ahead and follow along. We're going to go right here to this little drop-down menu in the right-hand corner of your management console. And when you drop this down, you'll see there's an option for security credentials. I'm going to flip tabs here where I've already come to that section of my Amazon account. And you'll see here is my access key ID. I just want to copy that. And let's go back over to my dashboard. And I'll paste that into the key field. Okay, now I just need my Amazon secret key, my secret access key. So I'll go back over to my security credentials, and you'll see that there is where your secret access key is. Now I'm not going to show you my secret access key. I've already pasted that in, but you can click here and get your secret access key, and then we'll come right back to our dashboard where I've already input that value. Okay, so all I do now is just come back down to the bottom and save changes. And that's it. Now, s2Member, any file download links that you create, just like normal, nothing changes in the way you link to files. Everything is the same. All of the shortcodes, everything that works is the same. The only difference is that now, instead of s2Member looking in this directory locally, it's going to be looking here in your Amazon bucket. So you will need to upload files to your bucket instead of to your site in the s2Member files directory. Okay, in the next segment, we're going to cover Amazon CloudFront integration as an additional option. Okay, now let's take a look at Amazon S3 with the CloudFront combination working as a true content delivery network. Okay, now I just want to make the point here in this video that if you just want to use your Amazon S3 bucket as a storage option instead of using the local s2Member files directory, then you can certainly do that. You can skip the CloudFront section. Just configure your Amazon S3 bucket and you're done. But if you do want to further enhance the speed at which your files are delivered to users and members, then you can integrate CloudFront. CloudFront is a content delivery network, and along with being able to speed up the delivery of the files that you're making available to your users and members, it's also going to make it possible for you to do real-time streaming through the RTMP protocol, which I will cover in the next segment of this video. Okay, so if you decide that CloudFront is right for you, we just drop this down. You need to already have your Amazon S3 bucket integration completed. Then we come to the CloudFront section, and I'm just going to skip down through these details and go right into what we need to accomplish here. The first thing we need here is our Amazon CloudFront key pair ID. Okay, so I'm going to flip tabs over to my web services account at Amazon, and I'll assume in this video that you already have an Amazon Web Services account with access to CloudFront. Okay, and all we're going to do here is create a new key pair ID. Now, if you already have a key pair ID, you can certainly use that one. But I'm going to create a new one here just so I can walk you through the process. What's going to happen here when I click this link to create a new key pair is I'm going to get a prompt to download a file. And that's an important file. You need to keep that file because you're going to need it to integrate with s2Member. Okay, so there's the file. It's going to start with PK, private key, followed by your key pair ID, and then it'll have a PEM extension. Okay, now I downloaded the file a while ago, so I'm going to just save this in a different directory. Create a new folder here. We'll call it CloudFront because that's important. I want to make sure that I have access to that file. I don't want to lose that file. In fact, it's a good idea to hang on to this, perhaps archive it somewhere on your computer. Okay, whenever I close this window now, this window behind here is going to refresh, and it's going to show me the new key that I just generated. Okay, and there it is. So this is the key pair ID that I need right now. I'm going to go ahead and copy that. I'm going back over to my dashboard. I'm going to give that key pair ID to s2Member. Okay, now s2Member needs the Amazon CloudFront private key, the contents of your pk-.....pem file. That is the file that we just were prompted to download at Amazon. Okay, so I'm going to open up my text editor here. Close this down, and let's open up that file that we were just looking at. I put it in the CloudFront folder, and we're going to open that file in just a text editor. Okay, and we want to make sure that we grab the entire contents of this file. Don't lose one of these dashes. Don't grab just what's in the middle. Okay, you need all of it. Let's copy that, come back to our dashboard, and we'll paste that into this field. When it first goes in, it'll be in plain text, and as you click off of this field, it'll convert to just bullets so that it's not visible to anyone that happens to see your website while you're working on it. Okay, and then down below here we want to auto-configure the Amazon S3 CloudFront combination. So we want to make sure that this box is checked. Now this additional box you can just leave unchecked unless you plan on setting up CNAMEs, which is an even more advanced feature that I'm not going to cover in this brief tutorial. But if you do want to go over this, you can certainly set up CNAMEs as well for the two distributions that s2Member is going to generate. s2Member will generate one distribution for normal file downloads, a CloudFront distribution, and it's going to generate a second distribution for streaming file downloads. Now, it's really, from a user's perspective, none of that really matters. S3 and s2Member are going to handle all of this automatically for you. Just check this box, and we're going to configure everything, including creating the distribution, setting permissions. It's all handled automatically by s2Member here. So I'm going to come down to the bottom and press Save Changes, and this may take a moment to work. Okay, it says Options Saved. Amazon CloudFront distributions have been auto-configured successfully. And it says, please allow 30 minutes for propagation. Okay, now I just want to show you quickly. We'll need to wait now 30 minutes. What's going to happen now is whenever someone tries to access a link, and by the way you link to files does not change. Everything remains the same. The only difference is where files are being pulled from and where files ultimately are being downloaded from. But the way that you link to files does not change. All of these shortcodes, the standard linking format, all the same. Now there are some additional details that you can go over down here in this CloudFront section, and there's some little notes down here over some things that you might want to be aware of. So I would advise reading down through these sections. But otherwise, everything remains the same. Now we'll need to wait 30 minutes for those distributions to propagate. And I'm going to switch tabs here for just a moment over to my management console. And I'm going to flip over to my CloudFront distribution panel. And you'll see here that s2Member has generated 2 distributions that are still in progress. One of those is for normal file downloads and another one is for streaming file downloads. The streaming distribution is just there in case you decide to use the RTMP protocol through JW Player, which I'll cover in the next segment of this video. So you can come here and watch your CloudFront distributions. Whenever this goes to enabled or it leaves the in progress state, then you'll be ready to go. Now it's important to note that Amazon CloudFront is connected to your bucket name. So if you watched me in the previous video, we created a bucket called WS s2Member files. So nothing changes in terms of where my files are stored. I still upload files to my Amazon S3 bucket. My distributions through CloudFront are powered by the files inside this bucket that I've created. And if you check your bucket after enabling the CloudFront distributions, you'll notice that s2Member automatically creates a cross-domain.xml file inside your bucket. This is important to keep in there just in case you do enable the real-time streaming in the future. This will be something that you'll want to have in there. And you can look up cross-domain.xml on the internet if you'd like to learn more about what this file does. Okay, so let's switch back over to our dashboard here. And in the next segment of this video, I'm going to walk you through what's now possible through JW Player from Longtail Video now that you have the CloudFront CDN integrated. Okay, now we're going to discuss the JW Player and the RTMP protocol, which becomes possible once you have Amazon S3 and s2Member integrated with CloudFront as well. Okay, RTMP streaming is a very popular option among membership sites where the audio and video content that you would like to serve to paying users or paying members, you want to make sure that as those files are delivered to paying customers, that the paying customers cannot then download the file itself and then perhaps redistribute it. So the RTMP protocol makes that possible, where you're actually doing streaming of the video in the truest sense. It also allows JW Player and other media devices to actually do a true seek within the file, where you're able to seek to different areas of a file without having to load the entire MP4 file. So this can be very useful. It's also an extremely advanced aspect of s2Member's integration with CloudFront. So please try to keep that in mind as I work through this, because this can get very complex, especially for novice site owners. All right, the first option here on the top is a way to accomplish JW Player video display without having Amazon and CloudFront. This is not as powerful, and so I'm going to bypass this in this tutorial, but you're more than welcome to take a look at this. If you don't want to integrate Amazon S3 CloudFront, you're not that concerned about having true streaming, then this would certainly be an option. The next one down is the one I will focus on in this video, because this is true RTMP streaming of an MP4 file through the Amazon and CloudFront integration. And these 2 additional code samples beneath here, these might be good for developers to take a look at. You might find some ideas here. These are a couple of alternative ways to integrate this. All right, let's go and get started here with this example. The first thing you'll see is that we need to download JW Player. Okay, and I've already opened this up in a new window. You'll come to Longtail Video and you'll download JW Player. In this case, I just entered a fake email address so I could download a quick copy. Be sure to read through their licensing agreement. Once you download the file, you'll get a zip file, and you can unzip that. And I'm going to open up a separate window here where I've already extracted those files and placed them into the proper location for this video tutorial. What I'd like you to do to follow along with this tutorial is go to the root of your WordPress installation, where you should have these 3 directories already, and create a new directory called JW Player, all lowercase, one word. And inside that directory, you place all of the files that you got from JW Player. The most important ones here are jwplayer.js, that's the JavaScript file, and then the Flash player. Okay, these other files are really unimportant for right now. Okay, let's go ahead and go back to our browser and take another look at this code sample. You can see in this code sample that this is quite complex. It's not a lengthy code sample, but it does use both HTML, PHP, and even some JavaScript provided by JW Player. So before we could actually use this in a post or a page, we're going to need a couple of additional plugins to make sure that this doesn't completely get mangled by WordPress. Because WordPress does not really jive with raw code like this, and particularly it's not going to work by default with PHP at all. Now, it would be my recommendation to put a code sample like this one, to actually do this in a theme file, or perhaps in a custom plugin that you're writing. Okay, but you can do it right into a post or a page if you choose. So I'll show you in this video how that's accomplished. Okay, there's two prerequisites in terms of what additional plugins that you're going to need. The first one, I'll switch tabs over here to the raw HTML plugin. You'll need to have this plugin installed so that as you place raw HTML into your editor for WordPress, it won't completely get mangled by the visual editor or by the content filters associated with WordPress. So this is first, and then also be sure that you have the exec.php plugin installed so that the PHP tags that we'll be using in this tutorial can be parsed by your installation of WordPress. And I'll switch tabs again here just so you can see, here's the installation that I'm working with, and you can see I have those two additional plugins installed. Alright, let's go ahead and grab this code sample now. I'm going to copy this in its entirety. Okay, all the way from the div, all the way down to the ending PHP tag. I'll copy that, and I've actually already created a test page that has this exact code sample. Okay, now one important thing to note here is that in this particular code sample, everything is pre-configured with the exception of one thing, and that is the video file name itself. So in this case, I'm going to be trying to test play this little test video that I got from Longtail. Okay, so I'm going to switch tabs again just for one moment here and show you. Here is my Amazon S3 bucket. This is the bucket that I've configured s2Member to work with. And there is that video.mp4 file that I uploaded to that bucket. You'll need to upload a video file before you can test this code sample. Now this crossdomain.xml file, you can learn more about crossdomain.xml by searching for that in Google. That is created automatically by s2Member whenever you integrate CloudFront. Okay, so now that we've decided which video that we're going to play, let's take one quick look before we preview this page at these three type and provider entries into the JavaScript player, the player API for JW Player. You can see here at the beginning that the first method that we want to use, we're going to first try the real-time streaming through the Flash player provided by JW Player. This is the most secure option because this is what's going to use the RTMP protocol. Okay, and you just pop in the streamer tag here that's provided by s2Member. You'll find this API function documented in the s2Member codex. There's further documentation on this also in your dashboard in the file download section. You'll find that under the subsection of the shortcode attributes and API functions. So if you'd like to learn more about how all of this works, you can certainly do that. Okay, so this is the actual RTMP stream that we're going to try first. Now, if for whatever reason Flash is not available on the device that's attempting to view this video, then we will automatically attempt to fall back on an HTML5 video tag, where we will make an attempt to play the MP4 file directly. And if that doesn't work either, then we'll fall back in the end to a straight download of the MP4 file. Now, it's important to note here that while this code sample provides these fallbacks built in, if you're really concerned about security, you may not want these two additional options in here, because these do provide access to that direct MP4 URL. Okay, now these are going to be secured and only available to paying users and customers, but even if a paying user or a paying customer, I should say, were to gain access to an MP4 URL, they could then download it and redistribute it, whereas that's not possible if it's being streamed over the RTMP protocol. So just to keep that in mind. And you'll find further documentation on how this works, on how these fallbacks work at the Longtail Video website in the documentation for JW Player. Okay, let's go ahead and take a look here, and let's go ahead and see if this is going to work as it's supposed to. Okay, there's the media player that pops up. Now, I don't have a thumbnail image that's configured for this, but that's something else that you can add. You can read through the documentation at JW Player on how that's handled. Let's go ahead and click the play button. And there's just this short video clip. Okay, and that was served over an RTMP real-time stream. Okay, thank you for watching. Okay, hi, I just wanted to do a quick addendum to the JW player and the RTMP protocol video. A couple of things I realized that I bypassed that I think are important to mention. Hopefully that will help you out. The first one is that regarding the raw HTML plugin, I completely bypassed this. I just assumed when you install the raw HTML plugin, it will be available to you, but by default these are going to be unchecked. Okay, so you can't just do what I did in the video, and that is update and go and view the page, because this code is going to get mangled. Once you have the raw HTML plugin, you do need to check all of these off so that all the content filters are disabled. Okay, then update your page, and then you should be able to view it. Okay. Secondly, here in the code, you'll notice that we're using this API function, s2Member file download URL. Okay, this is what's pulling the streamer, okay, and the file that are required for the JW player configuration. If you've been through any of the JW player documentation, you've probably seen a similar code sample that's provided from Longtail Video, but here s2Member is integrating some additional functionality that's required for these security-enabled files. So you can kind of compare this against the documentation that's provided from Longtail, and hopefully if you have any questions beyond that, we can help you in the forum by answering those. But I'm going to show you quickly two other places that you can, resources that you can use to research this if you have any problems. And one of them is right here at s2member.com. You can come up here to the support documentation section, come down here to the codex, the s2Member codex, and choose API functions. Okay, and that will bring you to this long list of all of the API functions made available by s2Member. And in this list, you will find that s2Member file download URL function. And this is well documented. Gives you some sample uses of other ways it can be used, not just for RTMP streaming. That's one use. And then down below here, you will find all of the configuration parameters documented. And a couple of those we were using in the JW player example are URL to storage source and count against users. So these are things that you'll want to take a look at and just kind of browse through to get, if you're trying to get a better idea about how it all works. Another source for information is over here at longtailvideo.com. If you go to the JW player menu here and you come down to the player setup wizard, okay, that'll bring you to this page I'm on right now. And over here in these tutorials, you'll find RTMP streaming and using CloudFront. Okay, now while these might differ slightly from the examples that I just provided, you can certainly change and use something slightly different than what I used in the video. Or if nothing else, maybe some of this information in these tutorials provided by Longtail, perhaps it'll help clarify what's actually going on in the code samples that we provide for s2Member. Okay, and again, I apologize for any confusion on this. This is an extremely advanced aspect, probably the most advanced aspect of s2Member. We've really tried to support this for those who would like to integrate real-time streaming media. But again, this takes some know-how. Okay? All right, I appreciate your patience. Thank you very much for watching.